That's right. We're two escrow officers that have done this for a real long damn time.
Check, check. Mic check.
Is this thing recording?
Hello, and welcome to ESCROWtainment.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of ESCROWtainment. We're your hosts. I'm Brittany Siciliano.
Hi, I'm Tammy Stone.
And today we're going to talk about how to read a closing statement.
Or disclosure.
Which one do we want to do?
Well,
They're two different. Let's do disclosure. That's most common.
yes, for
What do you
sure.
say?
Yeah, and if you don't know the difference, a closing disclosure means there's a lender involved. Closing statements are used more on your cash transactions, investment properties, things like that.
Commercial properties.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
You talk about title premium. I think you explain it better. I think that's the biggest question we get about the closing disclosure is, I'm going to set up the example and then let Brittany explain it. The seller agreed to pay the title insurance, but it's on the buyer's side CD. Why?
because you stopped at page 2, and on page 3, the seller credits the buyer.
Right.
And why? Because in 2015,
Was it that long ago?
can you believe that? Almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
In 2015, the government created CFPB,
Mm-hmm.
Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. And what happened was they decided to mandate a government form nationwide. So any residential loan closed nationwide, all the fees have to be located in the same exact place. They did this with the idea that consumers would know exactly how to find the information.
And could shop them, right? Shop different lenders to
Yes.
compare.
Yes. When in fact, probably weekly, we get the statement of, I don't know why you charge a title policy to the wrong person.
Right.
So they kind of did it backwards where they charge the buyer on page 2 for the actual title policy, and then the seller reimburses the title policy on page 3. If your clients decide to split the policy premium in negotiation, you're only going to see half
The credit.
on
Right.
page 3. If the buyer is paying for the full title policy, you will see no credit on page 3.
Right.
So,
And even just to add a little bit more to that, the section where you see that title policy charge to the buyer, that's just based on the loan amount.
yes.
So then the difference between the loan amount and sales price is either down further to a charge to the buyer, or that one's already on the seller's side. Did that make it worse?
No, it didn't. So you're actually bringing up a good point. That premium is charged in section C, which is the third section down on page 2. That is only for the loan policy premium. In a purchase transaction, we typically issue an owner's policy and a loan policy. The loan policy premium is credited back to the buyer on page 3, but the difference in cost between what the buyer pays for the lender policy and what's paid for the owner's policy is actually going to be shown down in section H, which is at the bottom of page 2 of the closing disclosure.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be easier for people to understand.
Perfect
right?
sense.
Yeah. So that is the most common question, and it's not just from real estate agents.
Yeah.
That's buyers,
Yes.
that's sellers, that's everyone
Lenders.
in the industry.
Some lenders are looking for that credit, right? Maybe the loan originator or something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And honestly, we had to go through extensive boot camp training. Don't you remember that?
right.
At that other?
Well, and do you remember when this first started? This is just kind of funny. How lenders would want you to tell them,
Yes.
I don't know. I don't understand what you're asking. But they were trying to understand, too, the cost of the loan policy, what the cost would be of the owner's policy, and if there's a simultaneous issue. Well, if you're issuing both, there is a simultaneous. So it was so confusing to me how they wanted me to give them those numbers.
Yes.
But it's kind of that same thing. It's that, still the
Yes.
loan policy premium, credit for the difference.
Yes.
Actually, the credit is less $100.
You're right. Because the simultaneous break is $100.
That's the cost of the loan policy to the buyer.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense to me.
So easy. Clear as mud. I think the binder we had to go to school on was about this thick.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
It was like courses.
Yeah, I cannot believe it was 2015.
I can't either. I remember it was industry changing. and we were all in a tizzy.
And I do remember it, but now I'm really going back. But you remember it before with the HUD,
Yes.
and then you had that comparison page.
Yes.
That one was crazy for me. You didn't think so? See, I thought
I did. I
Oh,
thought it was a total waste of everyone's time.
yes.
Like, I don't need another page of the same info as on your note.
Right.
Like, why do you care about that on your closing statement?
For sure.
That was crazy. Yeah, I'm glad they did away with that one.
Yes, I'm okay with the closing disclosure, even with the title premium.
We just get to be valuable.
That's right.
We just get to be valuable.
And explain it.
What are some other good things to read?
On the closing disclosure, seller concessions.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, if the seller's agreed to pay part of the closing costs for the buyer, you want to make sure that credit also is on page 3.
You do.
That credit is right there with the title insurance premium credit, same section.
And then you have prorations. So property tax prorations, homeowners association dues prorations, lease prorations if there's a tenant that occupies that property. All of those things are going to fall on page 3, and it's going to depend on the time of year and who's reimbursing who.
I still have to stop and think.
Yeah.
Just like you said, on taxes, it's one way until October, and then it's a different way, after that when the tax bills come out. So, I mean, definitely any questions ask, but yes, you want to check those prorations.
You want to make sure those are on there.
Do you add lease backs to your closing disclosures for like a seller's lease, like temporary lease?
No.
Yeah,
because like 99% of the time, the lenders will not allow it.
Right.
If there is no loan, and it's a cash transaction, sure.
Right.
All day long. But no, I've had more lenders tell me to take it off. And I'm not really sure why. Like, it credits the buyer, but sometimes
I guess
they have a minimum.
That's the only time I was going to say is if it kind of affects that. But yeah, they don't like to see them on there.
No. And in that case, you just really have to prepare your clients. Like, what kind of funds do they need from the seller or buyer? What is it going to be, a check? Is it going to be a cashier's check? How's that going to be?
Zelle.
Zelle. How's it going to be handled? So that's good. Other negotiable items, home warranties. Yeah. Where are those going to be?
Right. That's page 2 under H. Is that, we have these memorized?
We do.
Well, think of H just like that title policy. That's kind of all the other things. It's commissions, it's taxes, it's home warranties, it's repairs. Maybe something that's, outside of your lender or title fees, you'll typically find an H.
Yes. Let's see. What about gift funds?
Yeah.
So if I'm buying a house from you and my Aunt Susie is giving me $30,000, where am I going to see that?
That's with your credits. Same credits as your title policy, same credit as your taxes. What did we talk about earlier? That was on seller concessions.
Okay.
All your credits are in that same section, and that would be gift funds too. Also, your earnest money.
Oh, yeah.
Earnest money, option fee. You're putting me on the spot, but what is credits? L?
L, I think.
Okay. I see it. I was just trying to think if it was L, but that's all the buyer credits are in that same section. So that's a good way to kind of think about the closing disclosure. You've got charges all up top, and then your credits are the second section, and then you just subtract the 2.
Yeah.
And that's the amount the buyer owes.
Which I find most times it's, and that's all on page 3, but I find most times the buyer's like, oh, I owe less than what I thought I did. Because when they wrote that contract, they're seeing what that down payment number is,
right? And
they're going off of that.
Yeah.
But they do get all those extra credits back at closing. So
yes, you know what I get a lot. This is just kind of off the topic, but really about the closing statement. You know how on a cash transaction you've got your charges in one column and then your credits in the other, and you owe the difference. But really, those 2 columns are adding up.
Yes.
I always have the cash buyer want to bring me that bottom amount.
The very bottom.
Okay, you get that too?
Yes,
okay. And so then what we owe them back would be their credits.
Yes.
Earnest money, taxes, option fee, which is fine. That almost seems like they're getting a little, getting those back to put those back where it came from. But I get that quite often.
Yeah. Those are hot list items. So do we have a story that we want to share in relating to maybe the closing disclosure wasn't read right, or maybe misunderstanding?
I think that happens, right? It's just they just, until, and I know you, like me, I have a certain way I go over it, and once I've gone through that spill, they're like, oh, Okay.
Okay, makes
But
sense.
yes, but looking at it at first, it's like, why am I being charged this? Why is this on my side? And then when you kind of start with those charges and then through the credits, definitely it's like, oh, got it.
Yeah. I think what we've talked about are the highlight points that questions we get asked all the time that could help.
Or I thought of another one. You don't typically, if you're representing the buyer, you don't typically see the commission on the buyer's CD unless the lender lists it. And I think a lot of lenders are, but you still have some of those lenders that just don't list any of the seller stuff, right? Because the lender's ultimately the one preparing the buyer's closing disclosure. And so I think more and more are starting to, but if you're representing that buyer and you don't see the commission, don't automatically panic. That's on the seller side if the seller's paying for it.
Yes. Very good. Very good stuff.
What's your tip?
I think for a tip, if you don't know how to read one, if someone has sent you a closing disclosure to review and you've got that hard relationship with your client, they trust you, they're going to call you before they call anyone else. And maybe you feel a little pressure because you're not sure. You're not sure how to explain it to them. You're not sure how to understand it. My tip would be reach out to one of us.
Yeah.
Let us take 5 minutes to show you how to read it.
I don't think we even need the CD.
No.
To help you. I mean, you don't have to provide it to us or your buyer's information. I think I could walk through it just off you telling me it's in front of you.
I think so too.
So, and I think that would be a benefit to you, just to maybe ask that what you think might be a question that you don't want to come up at closing.
No. And I think just we're trained, the art of closing. We're trained to.
I say it the same way.
Say it in a certain
every
way.
time. Yeah.
And you try to explain it in a way that is so easy to understand, but also in a business way so that they understand.
Answers the questions. Yeah.
And maybe we can give you some lingo to use whenever you reach out to your client. As a closer, I don't expect you to go through that process with your client, but I understand you have the relationship with your client. So if you really want that, I think the tip would be just call us. Yeah. We're happy to help. Yeah. It's super easy.
I don't think any question is not a good question if you don't know, for sure.
Yeah.
I was not using the word dumb.
No.
There's no dumb questions.
There's no dumb questions. Yeah. Call us, reach out to us. You can find us. Brittany Siciliano, Tammy Stone. It's very easy to find us.
Google us.
Shoot us an email. podcast@McKnightTitle.com. We will hop on it and get right back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you say our challenge is?
Well, I think for our challenge, we said just best thing to tell you on a buyer's closing disclosure is to start on page 3. I know page 1 is all cute with loan amount and interest rate and what they're bringing to closing, which is important. But page 3 really breaks it down, and it too at the bottom shows what they owe. So I think that's a good place to start on a buyer's closing disclosure is page 3.
Yes, I think that's a great.
Skim 1, but page 3 goes over your transaction.
Start on page 3.
Yeah.
Page 2 is just a review of the total that's shown on page 3, and page 1 is just a summary of the loan details.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Just keep it easy.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, as Brittany said, reach out to us, podcast@McKnightTitle.com. We'd love to connect, love to visit with you. We'd love to close a deal with you.
We would. We are doing all of this. We have goals to close more transactions this year. And the reason we have those goals is because we have an excellent team in place, and we both feel like we're ready to take on some more business. So we would love to see that come to fruition. And if you are not dedicated to someone and you're looking for someone, please, please, please reach out to us. We are more than willing to take on new clients. So podcast@McKnightTitle.com. If you thought this video was helpful, please like it. Please subscribe. Please click the bell for notifications. Please share it with your industry colleagues. If you're a broker in an office and you think this helps your agents or something like that, please do. Yeah, give us some ideas, maybe of some other things. We've gotten a few as we've kind of started adding more episodes, just things that make sense or that are hot topics. So share your ideas with us. Yes. Play our podcast in your team meeting. Yeah. Have us come speak. We would love to do that. Let us know how we can help you. Follow us on social. We're Facebook, Instagram, TikTok also, in addition to YouTube. We are on Spotify now, and then obviously the YouTube podcast platform. So yeah, we even have the microphones. We do. Super official now. We got the lighted background. Moving on up, my friend.
That's
Moving
right.
on up. All right.
Invest in your tomorrow.
Live in your today.
From your 2 favorite escrow officers, please stay tuned. We have new episodes every week.